Mr. Speaker, could I join the Prime Minister in wishing everyone in Wales and all Welsh people all around the world a very happy St David's Day? Yeah. And could I also express the hope that the workers at the Ford plant in Bridgend get today the assurances they need about their job security and their futures? Yeah. Mr. Speaker, I also want to echo the Prime Minister's tribute to Gerald Kaufman, who served in this House since 1970, the longest-serving member, started in political life as an advisor to Harold Wilson in the 1960s. He was an iconic, irascible figure in the Labour Party and in British politics. He was a champion for peace and justice in the Middle East and around the world. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, at his funeral, the rabbi who conducted the service conveyed your message on behalf of the House to his family, which was very much appreciated. Afterwards, I was talking to members of his family and his great-nephews and great-nieces, and I asked, how would you describe Gerald? And they said he was an awesome uncle. And I think we should remember Gerald as that and convey our condolences to all of his family. Mr. Speaker, just after the last budget, the then Work and Pensions Secretary resigned, accusing the government of balancing the books on the backs of the poor and vulnerable. Last week, the government sneaked out a decision to overrule a court decision to extend personal independence payments to people with severe mental health conditions. A government that found £1 billion in inheritance tax cuts to benefit 26,000 families seems unable to find the money to support 160,000 people with debilitating mental health conditions. Will the Prime Minister change her mind?
Let me be very clear about what is being proposed in relation to personal independence payments. This is not a policy change. This is not a cut in the amount that is going to be spent on disability benefits, and no one is going to see a reduction in their benefits from that previously awarded by the DWP. What we are doing is restoring this particular payment to the original intention that was agreed by the coalition government, agreed by this Parliament after extensive consultation.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, extensive consultation is an interesting idea because the court made its decision last year. The government did not consult the Social Security Advisory Committee and instead, at the last minute, sneaked out its decision. The court ruled that the payments should be made because the people who were going to benefit from it were suffering overwhelming psychological distress. Just a year ago, the new Work and Pensions Secretary said he can tell the House we're not going ahead with the changes to PIP that were put forward. The court have since made a ruling. Her friend, the member for South Cambridge, has said, in my view, the courts are there for a reason. If they've come up with this ruling which says the criteria should be extended, I believe we have a duty to honour that. Isn't she right?
Yeah. First of all, on the issue of these payments and those with mental health conditions, actually the personal independence payment is better for people with mental health conditions. If you look at the figures, 2/3 of people with mental health conditions who are who are claiming personal independence payments and in receipt of that, 2/3 of them actually get awarded the higher daily living rate allowance. That 2/3 compares to less than a quarter under the previous DLA arrangements. But it's the second time that the Right Honourable Gentleman has suggested that somehow this change was sneaked out. It was in a written ministerial statement to Parliament. I might remind him, week after week he talks to me about the importance of Parliament. Well, we accepted the importance of Parliament and made the statement to Parliament. But also, he referred to the Social Security Advisory Committee, and they can look at this. My right honourable friend, the Work and Pensions Secretary, called the chairman of the Social Security Advisory Committee and spoke to him about the regulations on the day they were being introduced. He called the chairman of the Work and Pensions Select Committee and spoke to him about the regulations that were being introduced. He called both offices of the Shadow Work and Pension Secretary, but there was no answer, and they didn't come back to him for 4 days.
Mr. Speaker, calling the chairs of 2 committees and making a written statement to the House does not add up to scrutiny. And as I understand it, there was no call made to the office of my friend, the Shadow Secretary of State. Mr. Speaker, the reality is this is a shameful decision that will affect people with dementia, those suffering cognitive disorders due to a stroke, military veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, and those with schizophrenia. Can she look at the effects of her decision to override what an independent court has decided and think again?
The issues that he raises, the conditions that he raises, these are taken into account when decisions are made about the personal independence payments. What the court said was that the regulations were unclear. That is why we are clarifying the regulations, and we are ensuring that they reflect the original intention that was agreed by this Parliament. But I say to the right honourable gentleman, if he wants to talk about support that is being given to people on with disabilities, this government is spending more than ever in support for people with disability and health conditions. We are spending more than ever on people with mental health conditions. And as I say to him, what we're doing with the personal independence payments is ensuring that those who are most in need get most support.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Speaker, the government has overridden an independent court decision on this, and they should think very long and hard about that. Her friend, the member for North East Bedfordshire, said this week the government had to make it very clear that physical and mental health had the same priority. In 2002, the Prime Minister made a speech to the Conservative Party conference. I remember it very well. I was watching it on television. She said, she described her party as the nasty party. And she said some Tories have tried to make political capital by demonising minorities. This week, her policy chair suggested people with debilitating conditions were those who, and I quote, who take pills at home, who suffer from an anxiety and were not really disabled. Isn't that proof the nasty party's still around?
My honourable friend has rightly apologised for the comments that he made, and I hope that this whole House will accept his apology. He asks, the right honourable gentleman asks me about the parity between mental health and mental health conditions and physical conditions. It is this Conservative government that has introduced parity of esteem in relation to dealing with mental health, and in the National Health Service. How many years were Labour in government and did nothing about that? 13 years.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Mr. Speaker, it was a Labour amendment to the Health and Social Care Bill that resulted in parity of esteem being put on the face of the bill. I'm surprised she's forgotten that, because she could take this opportunity to thank the Labour Party for putting that forward. The Prime Minister made a speech earlier this year supporting parity of esteem for mental health, and I'm glad she did. 40% of NHS mental health trusts, however, are having their budgets cut. There are 6,600 fewer mental health nurses and 160,000 people with severe mental health conditions about to lose out on support. Can she not recognise parity of esteem means funding it properly and not overriding court decisions that would benefit people suffering from very difficult conditions? We should reach out to them, not deny them the support they need.
As I say, we are spending more than ever on mental health. That's £11.4 billion a year. More people each week are now receiving treatment in relation to mental health than have done previously. Is there more for us to do on mental health? Yes, there is. I've said that in this chamber in answer to questions that I've received previously. Well, do it, shouts the Shadow Foreign Secretary from her normal sedentary position, commenting that... oh, sorry. We are doing it. That's why we're putting record amounts of money into mental health. That's why we're seeing more people actually being provided with mental health treatment every week under this government. But there is one thing that I know. If you are going to be able to provide that extra support for people with disabilities and health conditions, if you're going to be able to provide treatment for people with mental health conditions, you need to have the strong economy that enables us to pay for it. And the one thing we know about Labour is that they would bankrupt Britain.
Coming from a government that by 2020 will have borrowed more and increased the national debt by the total borrowing of all Labour governments, that comes rich. Mr. Speaker, the mental health charity Rethink said the government has spoken forcefully about the importance of parity of esteem between physical and mental health. Yet, when presented with the chance to make this a reality, has passed the opportunity by. Mr. Speaker, as a society, we're judged by how we treat the most vulnerable. The respected mental health charity Mind has said this misguided legislation must be reversed. Can't the Prime Minister look again at the decision of the court, look again at the consequences of it, and withdraw this deep decision, this nasty decision, accept the court's judgment and support those going through a very difficult time in their lives? That is how we will all be judged.
Yes. You certainly will.
The way that we are dealing with disability benefits is to ensure that payments are going to those who are most vulnerable. What we are doing in relation to the personal independence payments is ensuring that the agreement of this Parliament is being put into practice. But he talks about funding and he talks about borrowing. I understand that today
have a constant debate while the Prime Minister is answering the question. The question has been put and was heard, and the answer must be heard without a constant hubbub in the background. The Prime Minister.
He talks about restoring, about actually accepting the court's decision and paying for that. Well, I understand that the Labour Shadow Health Secretary today, when asked how Labour would pay for the increase if it was put in place, said, we've not outlined that yet. That just sums up the Labour Party and the Labour Party leadership. You know, after the result in Copeland last week, the honourable member for Lancaster and Fleetwood summed up the by-election result by saying it was an incredible result for the Labour Party. You know, I think that word actually describes the right honourable gentleman's leadership. Incredible.